Hi everybody, Mike Evans and Casey Pine here with another Friday Spy Curious, the weekly news for Australian licensed private investigators. We've got a comment already. Who we got first up? G'day Tracy, great to see you. Happy Friday to you too. We hope you had a great week as an investigator and you're going to have a great weekend. How are you today, Casey?
I'm fantastic. Very busy as usual. I feel like I always say that, and it's always a good problem to have.
Fantastic. What's the new stand-up desk like?
Oh, it is so good. If you are a desktop investigator, I cannot recommend it enough.
How tired were you last night?
Oh,
very good. Okay, so you're getting exercise and working at the same time.
Yes, well, yes, you consider standing exercise.
Well, this week, people, we are going to find out precisely how many licensed private investigators there actually are in Australia. So that's really big news, and we're going to have that hot off the press. We're also going to tell you about Brett Sutcliffe's unfortunate incident at Goulburn where he lost his vehicle, had it impounded and lost his licence. Human headline from Spouse Busters. We'll tell you all about Brett's problems that occurred at court this week, along with how many licensed private investigators there are. But before we get stuck into that, I have got a lot to cover. Precise in Melbourne are looking for a case manager for investigation support. They're a great team at Precise. If you are a licensed private investigator, experienced enough to manage investigations, get in touch with them. NDIS are looking for a fraud intelligence analyst in Brisbane. What a great opportunity. They're offering you nearly $84,000 and 15.25% superannuation. Chandler McLeod want a fraud and corruption prevention manager in Sydney. What a great role. So, they're offering $830 per day. Well, that's nice work if you can get it. Yeah. Give me Chandler McLeod's number, please, Casey. Randstad Business Support are looking for a fraud and corruption manager down in Sydney. Hobart's gone absolutely gangbusters at the Department of Education. They're looking for a senior Brisbane. Senior investigator for investigations, performance, conduct, safety and integrity. So these are people you're going to be investigating who are trained professional teachers who might be grooming children, might have code of conduct issues. They're all fighting with each other, and you're going to have a merry old time listening to all the problems that are going on in the education department. The Department of Justice, DOJ, down in Hobart, have investigation officer various positions up to $111,000. So look, get on to the DOJ in Hobart, fly down there, go and live in Hobart. Great place to live. So been there, done that. Really, really great opportunity there with the Department of Justice down in Hobart. And the Department of Education in a minute. G'day, Renee. Good to see you. I did have you there, Renee. Great to see the Executive Vice President of AirLap tuning in this week. Hope you've had a great week, Renee. Now, back to where I was supposed to be. The news I've got to bring up this week, where we do, people, our bush and rural surveillance training program. The police down there, right in the central area where we do this, have had a blitz on alcohol and drug driving. So you might think, why are they doing that in the middle of winter where the population there is 30 people? Well, there's a lot of people travel through there. They don't actually live there. They travel through there too. So they're looking for firearms breaches, for unregistered vehicles. They've had a blitz on everything. So that operation, it netted them, what did they get? 2 drink drivers, and their readings were 0.14 and 0.09. One driver had an illicit drug. If you were there in that cold, you'd be smoking dope too. There's some minor firearms offences. Now, that may have been that they weren't locked up properly in travelling in the vehicle or something like that. 31 vehicle defect notices, up to 3 unregistered vehicles, unlawful possession of illegally cut firewood. Now, that's interesting. How do they know where the wood came from? They might have had their drones up there, and they did 20 fisheries inspections. So that's down where the Australian Security Academy does its bush and rural training program in the Central Highlands of Tasmania, often in the snow. And just beware, people, register your vehicle, make sure it's roadworthy, and don't smoke dope if you go to an Australian Security Academy bush and rural surveillance course. Some other news around this week. Police discovered, according to a tweet by the Gold Coast Bulletin, a stolen car going up in flames in Nerang. Now that is really big news. I'll tell you what, not having a car going up in flames in Nerang would be more newsworthy than that. Orangutans like to burn their vehicles. There was a man injured in a fall on scaffolding on the Gold Coast. So he fell 3 metres and he was injured. Now, this is something you are going to be investigating, a lot of investigators. And I make it clear to everybody that does these investigations for workers' compensation in workplace accidents around Australia. You do not have to be an expert on scaffolding to investigate a scaffolding accident. That's not the case. There are many different ways to erect scaffolding. And I've investigated a lot of these accidents. I know nothing about building. I couldn't build a dog kennel. I just can't get my head around it. So why can I go and investigate that? It's because they're telling me how they erected that scaffolding. They're telling me how they complied with the building legislation and the Workplace Health and Safety Act. And I'm asking them questions about that. It doesn't matter what I know or I don't know. It's what their process, policies and procedures are in relation to how they complied and what happened in relation to before, during and after that accident. So that's a common accident, scaffolding collapses. And as we're coming up to the end of the year, you'll find that we're going to have a lot of veranda collapses too, because a lot of people party celebrate their kids finishing school. They get 30 or 40 people on the veranda and they're dancing and they collapse as well. So these are the things that you'll investigate as a licensed private investigator. I've done that one. There was a terrible tragedy down in Sydney. A stonemason was killed after scaffolding collapsed there. Now, with this one, unlike the other one, the man just fell off the scaffolding. This one, there was a cement pour and the cement collapsed and took the man out. A really awful accident. You will investigate fatal accidents as an investigator. Take a box of tissues along with you because they are very, very sad occasions, and the people that witnessed it, it replays in their mind every night, and they will tell you about it. You do not have to be an expert on fatal accident investigations. You just go, ask the people, the witnesses, the questions, ask the employer the questions that you've got to ask on your list that you're given for your workers' compensation investigation. Now, some of those investigations, particularly in fatal accidents, you're doing a beyond a reasonable doubt balance of probabilities investigation for workers' compensation, but in a fatal accident, later, that's going to go to a beyond a reasonable doubt investigation because a man was fatally killed. And there'll be charges against the company directors in relation to that fatality. So that's an awful thing to have happened down in Sydney this week with that stonemason. So that's just some of the things that have happened in the news. All right, no more delay. Let's have a look how many licensed private investigators there are in Australia. Casey worked her heart out to get this number together. So what we're going to look at right now is how many there actually are. $5,741 licensed private investigators in Australia. That is not a lot of investigators. That is why you're seeing a lot of job opportunities in investigation agencies where people are required to have a private investigator's license. So private investigators do workers' compensation, CTP liability, public liability, general insurance investigations. And in order to do that, they must be licensed. Never, ever, if someone asks you to give a statement about an accident or a workplace accident, if they're not a licensed private investigator and they can't show you their license, don't speak to them. If they ring you up on the phone and say, I'm a licensed private investigator, I'm coming to speak to you about that incident you saw, you don't know that they're a licensed private investigator. They could be some kind of creep. Ask to see their license. That's why they've got to be licensed. They've got to be government approved and licensed. So we've had all sorts of news this week. 5,741 licensed private investigators in Australia. Now, not all of those are working. Some of them are retired. And I think 6 of them have a license in each state and territory. So we might be able to shave that down to a few less than that. Why do they have a license in every state and territory? Well, they own private investigation agencies and their clients expect them to be able to deliver investigations in every state and territory. That's the expectation of Allianz, Suncorp Metway, QBE, IAG, AAMI, CGU, you name it, that's their expectation. And so that's how the investigation agency earns an income, and they want you to work for them so you can earn an income too. Casey, what have you got for us this week?
Yes, I have my OSINT tip of the week. I quite like this one. I use it quite often. Whoops. Often when I'm doing desktop investigations, as Australia is a multicultural country, we have people from all around the world that live here and speak all different kinds of languages. They have all different types of religions, and often I'll come across images on their websites or social media or their blogs with a language other than English. And unfortunately, I'm not bilingual or multilingual by any means. So I really need help with that. And to be able to translate some language from an image has really helped me just explain what the image is about to my client, whether that be a political post or a religious one. And it even helps me narrow down places such as churches or sporting clubs that people are attending, especially when it's in Arabic or French, because there's a lot of those different languages here. So I'll give you an example of, here it is. So I just Googled this image. So this is the French president. And as you can see, there is a sign there that says something in French. And when you put it into Yandex image translation, you will see, so Yandex Translate, if you don't know what Yandex is actually a Russian version of Google, basically, and they have some amazing AI capabilities. And so as you can see, it's translated this text to, well, remotely English. So it's the French-German initiative at the Élysée Palace on Monday, May 18, 2020. And if we just go back to that sign, that was in French, and then into the English. And it's not always spot on, but it tends to give you enough to go from. And as you know, if you are a desktop investigator, it's constantly pivoting, constantly looking for tiny bits of information so you can link it to somewhere else. So that would just be the perfect amount of information, even though it's not a perfect translation. You get enough from the image to get the gist of what's going on, that they're in church, that they're in a suburb of Sydney, for example, if it's in Arabic at an Arabic church. And it's fantastic to really help you narrow down what it says, what it's about, and where they may be. So that is the Yandex Translate. So if you just go to yandex.com and go into their images, or just Google Yandex Translate. That's what I tend to do, and it'll come straight up. You drop and drag your image in and it will translate it for you. So really handy tool and something to keep in mind and impress your clients.
Very impressive, Casey. So I think that Arabic church might be a mosque. just tidy that one up.
Oh dear. It's been a long week.
She's blundered again. She does this to me, embarrasses me. All right, let's have a look. What did Brett Sutcliffe get up to? Let's have a look. So better play the video first. So Brett's gone out. He's gone out on the Ferrari car club in his new $500,000 Ferrari, and he's got to Goulburn in New South Wales, and he's opened up at 204 kilometres an hour in a 110 kilometre zone in Goulburn on the highway. Oh, look, the cops have got nothing better to do than pick on ex-PIs and just give them grief. I can't see what the problem here with a faulty tyre. Why would they go and impound his vehicle after that? I mean, goodness me. Well, he's just testing out his new car, making it unsafe for everybody going home from church on Sunday morning or a mosque on Sunday morning, as we previously discovered. So Brett's ended up in court, and he's had his car impounded. He's walking everywhere. He's got an electric bike. Here's Brett coming out of court, as it says in the Daily Telegraph, and he's got his mask on. I like this idea of these masks. No one's not going to know who you are. So I like that. Good move there, Brett. Well done. No one will know it's you, mate. No one. So he's got his Ferrari. He's an ex-PI. His Magnum. He's an ex-PI. He had a Ferrari too. So just so you don't get mixed up, there's Brett. There's Magnum. Brett, Magnum. Very sad news this week. Actually, everybody's favourite helicopter pilot on the extreme right, Robert J. Mosley, TC in Magnum, passed away this week, aged 83. Very sad news. Everybody's favourite helicopter pilot and character. What a great guy. Great actor. Part of a series we all knew and loved. And sorry to see that Robert died this week. And Olivia Newton-John, of course, and Judith Durham. Sorry about that. But anyway, we're not here to depress everyone. We're supposed to be cheering everyone up. So to cheer everybody up, here's Brett outside court. And here's the video of how to lose your Ferrari without really trying. Police took his license on the spot. So Brett's standing on the highway. He's got to ring up Uber and they got to come find him and take him back home. Car impounded, couldn't get it back out. You can now buy it for $100,000 off if you can actually get in to see it. But the police, they're not real cooperative with that sort of thing. They just like to make life hard for everybody in New South Wales. I mean, all he did was impersonate an Australian Federal Police officer. I mean, who impersonates a plastic? Oh, God, what a mess. Okay, so that's what's happening. If you've missed anything today, some of those jobs, you can watch the replay tomorrow over on our YouTube channel. So if you missed those job vacancies, or you don't know that TC passed away this week, that's where you can go and watch it again tomorrow and see it all happening there. Oh, I've got some more job vacancies somewhere. Coming up. Risk Manager, Fraud and Corruption at Randstad. So that's an opportunity, $830 per hour in Sydney. Worldline down in Melbourne are looking for a banking and corporate fraud investigator. So great opportunity down there. There's a Ferrari, in case you don't know what an impounded Ferrari looks like. This is what the number plate looks like now. You're watching number 161 of Spy Curious. Clarity Workplace Investigations down in Melbourne. If you've got a licence, Victorian Private Investigator licence, they'll employ you. You'll be starting next week. Get in touch with them. Show them your Victorian Private Investigator licence and your Australian Security Academy qualification. That's what they want to see. They have worked there. They can take on 3 people right now today. So watch the replay tomorrow on our YouTube channel. Get in touch with Clarity. They'll onboard you, induct you, and you will be being paid to be a factual investigator for Clarity Investigation. Coles, as we told you last week, are looking for a liability specialist for workers' compensation. So people in Coles who work there, they're covered by workers' compensation. If they have lifting injuries or slip, trips and fall injuries or other psychological injuries from working in Coles, you'll be the person that goes out and interviews them at the pending or statutory claim stage, and you'll interview the witnesses, and you'll be the person that's advising the Coles internal claims managers in relation to those accidents and incidents in workers' compensation. The Labour Hire Licensing Authority down in Melbourne, they're a manager of intelligence and compliance and enforcement. Okay, if you've got some experience in knowing what unions are all about, this is a job for you. I wouldn't recommend it to a beginner, this one. You'd possibly need quite good grounding in policing investigations behind you. You will not need a private investigator license for this job role. It's a corporate position, but you'll be monitoring what's going on in government funding, labour hire, all sorts of different gangs. If you remember, I was disappointed when I went to court a couple of weeks ago. I thought the matter was going to involve triads and all sorts of stuff like that, and it ended up being a really lame defamation case, which didn't involve any of that. This job will involve triads, bikie gangs, the whole shooting match. Anybody that can get an angle and free government money out of labour hire licensing in building or security or similar retail, this is where they'll be attracted to, and you'll be Melbourne, Victoria's frontline defence in that intelligence role. Jetstar are looking for a safety investigator. Procare Group want a general insurance investigator in Sydney. Aegis Management are looking for general insurance investigators in Perth. NKG, g'day Nick, down at NKG and team, they're looking for investigators. And Morris J. Kerry and Associates are looking for circumstance and factual investigators in South Australia. We actually had 2 Australian Security Academy graduates this week from South Australia, 1 from Tasmania, and 4 from New South Wales and 2 from Queensland. So I'm sure those experienced people who are now qualified investigators and soon be licensed in South Australia, it's a very quick process. You apply, you're practically licensed a couple of days later because it's an online process down there. No printing out, it's a digital license. So if the other states would adopt that, it'll be quick for everybody.
Well, that'd be nice.
Farrell's in Sydney are looking for a factual investigator down there. Massell is still chasing factual investigator in Sydney. Massell do workers' compensation investigations on behalf of the Victorian WorkSafe Authority. They teach for the Australian Security Academy. They're a great team at Massell. LS Intelligence, Steve down there, is looking for 2 factual investigators in Sydney, and he's always got positions vacant in Tasmania as well. If you want to see more vacancies than that, jump on this Facebook page. Now, you must request to join it, and you must answer 2 questions. Are you an Australian citizen? Are you looking for work as a licensed private investigator? If you answer yes to both those questions, I will personally give you access to all those jobs and a whole lot more. There are so many jobs out there, people. You've got to be in there like swimwear right now and start applying for them. Every time you apply for work as a licensed private investigator, you learn something. You'll get feedback about your interview, and they will do everything they possibly can to help you get the job that they advertise. Not all jobs are advertised. Quite a few are done just by people ringing up and asking. My contact details, if you want to become a licensed private investigator, are right there. You can text me or call me. I'm on the phone all day, especially after this program. My phone does not stop ringing until 6:30 at night on a Friday night, which is quite incredible. So if you can't get me, leave a message or text me or email, and I will send you more information. Boy. You are watching episode 161 of Spy Curious, Australia's #1 weekly news for licensed private investigators and Ferrari drivers. Don't forget, people, this is really important for... Oops, that's not it. I didn't update it. Sorry. 5,471 licensed private investigators in Australia. Now, Australia has a state-based licensing system. So we've collected that information. I'll play it again from all of these licensing authorities. Not one licensing authority tried to hide anything, was not transparent about it. When we asked that, they replied, didn't they, Casey?
Yeah, straight away. It's great.
They are extremely busy people, and it's not like they have this at hand waiting for someone. Who else would be interested to know, apart from Casey and myself, how many, and you, both people watching, how many licensed private investigators there are? Here it is again. $5,741. I have clients looking for factual and surveillance investigators in the Northern Territory, factual and surveillance investigators in Western Australia, factual and surveillance investigators in South Australia, Victoria, and Tasmania. So if you're looking for work as a licensed private investigator and you are an Australian Security Academy graduate, take advantage of that. Get in touch with me. Watch the replay of this program tomorrow on YouTube. Get my contact details. All you have to do to find that YouTube channel is type in Michael Evans, PI, Australian Security Academy. It will come up. Or simply type in Spy Curious. I think we've covered everything we had to cover today, Casey.
I think so. We're efficient today.
Sorry?
We're very efficient today.
We're very efficient today. I didn't get off on too many tangents like I usually do. Sorry, I apologise for that, everybody. Usually I like to go off on complete tangents about things that had happened during the week. Very sorry to hear about Olivia, Judith, and TC. Been sad week in that. Absolute tragedy about stonemason in Sydney, but over time there'll be some closure in relation to that. After the investigations are complete. But when something like that happens, a whole system goes into motion for a very long time. The response isn't immediate. Police responses to fatal accidents are straight away. That's straight away. To private investigators, we get the job 6-7 months down the track. So that is what happened. Except one day I was doing an investigation where the accident happened and the insurance company sent me there straight away. And what they thought it was a workplace murder. They seriously did. Or an attempted workplace murder, because a guy was crushed by a load from a forklift. So I went and interviewed the owner of the business, the young 16-year-old witness to it. Thanks, Tracy. You've been waiting a long time to see this today, haven't you? And I interviewed them, and it was a complete accident. It was a complete accident. The man had a 1-ton weight land on his head from a forklift. As it happened in front of them, as the forklift load went down, the driver, who was the owner of the business, and the young 16-year-old apprentice lifted the weight off the man's head, and blood went everywhere. And the workplace standards, the Workplace Investigation Authority, was 2 doors down from here. They reported the accident to Workplace Standards straight away in Queensland. They reported it to the police, and I was there at the same time. The police said to the owner of the business and the 16-year-old, "What did you do?" They said, "We lifted the weight off his head." They said, "Show us." They went over and tried to lift this 1-ton weight, which was on a pallet. They couldn't move it. Could not budge that weight. So all those rumours, urban myths you hear about people doing superhuman things when they see something really tragic can actually happen.
Yeah.
Don't ever expect as an investigator to be there straight away. That was a one-off. That was it. Now, the man who had the weight land on his head, he was in hospital, so I couldn't interview him. So I was directed to go to the hospital next day and take a statement from him in relation to it, because this was going to be a major $1 million claim. So I went to the hospital after contacting the ambulance when I found out where they took him. And they looked at me at reception and they said, he just checked himself out. I said, what? They said, he just checked himself out. He's got a taxi, he's gone and got his truck, and he's driven back up to Toowoomba from the Gold Coast. We gave him some Panadol. So I had to go from the Gold Coast to Toowoomba up to this guy's, he was a scrap metal dealer. I had to go up to his place. He was in the backyard of his scrap metal operation. He had a bandage wrapped around his head. He was standing on top of some large truck brake parts, and he had a sledgehammer in his hand, and he's belting these large metal truck brake parts with this bandage on his head. And the day before, he had a 1 ton weight land on top of his head. Do not pick a fight with anyone from Toowoomba who is a scrap metal dealer. Don't do it. You're not going to win. He said, it's just an accident. I'm not going to sue anyone. And he put it in a statement. That's what he gave me. That's what I reported. So you'll see some fun stuff. You'll see some weird stuff. You'll see some tragic stuff. My guarantee to you, you'll learn 3 new things every day. See you next week. Thanks for coming in, Casey.
Thanks for having me. Have a great weekend.
Always our pleasure to have Casey Pine. That was a great tip too.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's it. That's our mission complete for this week at Spy Curious. Happy Friday Spy Day, everybody. That's Spy Curious episode 161 on the 12th of August 2022. We won't be here next Friday. We'll be here Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Where are we going to be on Friday next week, Casey?
We'll be doing surveillance on whales.
We are doing surveillance on my word. See you next week, people. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with Casey Pine.